We will now start with the second technical session of the second day of the workshop, which is the fifth technical session of the overall workshop on the topic JDL Technology Stack Implementation, a case study of Blacklight, Spotlight, Quick Search, Haiku, Folio, and EDS by Mr. Savitra Sirohi, who is the head of technology implementation of Geo Institute Digital Library. Mr. Savitra Sirohi is helping implement technology for the Geo Digital Library, including library automation, discovery, and digital repository systems. He is a technologist and an entrepreneur with extensive experience in open source software and library technology. His experiences include heading a search, content aggregation, content federation, and automation products business targeted at the Indian academic library market. He also established from the ground up a new business around Koha and open source library automation software. His interests include education technology. He is one of the founders of Expertify, an online platform for video-based coursework. Mr. Sirohi's expertise is in cloud computing. He is a certified solutions architect and an authorized instructor for the Amazon Web Services platform. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thanks so much, Tushar, and thank you, Dr. Srikumar, as well for the introduction. So I think I know this is a it's already 7. It's a long day, so I will start quickly and I will walk everybody through this presentation, which I think we'll share later as well. So what I will explain here is I hope my slides are visible. So what I will explain here is how we did the implementation. Our implementation is almost complete. Okay, it's not fully complete, but we can say the journey was started a while back, and we went through several rounds of analysis, design, and implementation. Okay, so we've done a lot of work already, and this is a good case study. Okay, I think it's a good case study which we are sharing with you, and the idea is that there may be good lessons, good ideas that you may want to implement yourselves in your libraries. Okay, so that's the idea. Now, the JDL technology is a bit different from what we find in general in Indian libraries. Okay, because the vision for Geo Institute and the Geo Institute library is to create a world-class library, and we benchmarked our library and our technology to what we find in the top Western universities. Okay, so in fact, as you might have heard already in the workshop, Stanford University libraries and the leadership there have mentored the Geo library and also the technology. Okay, so right away, our scope, what we wanted to do in technology was bigger and different from what you would see in Indian libraries in general, right? And so we needed a sort of a different approach. We had to really think carefully about how we wanted to implement the technology, what technologies, what applications to select. We had to go through a careful analysis, and Stanford University, the technology leaders there, Tom Kramer, I think, has spoken already. So they had they gave us a lot of input. Plus, we ourselves had to make some decisions here because we are in India, and things that are possible in the US are possible with Stanford may not be possible here. So we had to take the guidance from Stanford and then see what to do given our circumstances in India, right? For example, a certain technology we may want to implement, but there may not be good support for that here in India. So we had to do some analysis and selection of technology here, and then we had to implement the technology, of course, right, ourselves. So I will walk you through how that process, how we went through these steps, right? What was the vision? Then what kind of approach we decided, we settled on. what were some of the guiding principles we used to select and then to implement the technology, right? And I will also share with you the results, basically where do we stand right now, what does the technology look like at the moment. And it was not smooth, right? No technology implementation goes smoothly. There are always challenges and hiccups. So I will share some of those challenges. And then some of the key takeaways, basically a summary of, I think, what lessons we learned from this implementation. And hopefully the same lessons and ideas can be useful to you as well. Okay, that's the idea. So let me go through this set of agenda points. And then after that, please feel free to ask questions. I think we can spend a lot of time on questions. My talk will not be that long, I think, hopefully, although I've not given this talk before, but hopefully we'll finish soon and then we can have a lot of time for discussion. Okay, so let's start with the vision, because, you know, what you do, what technology to implement, what approach you adopt depends a lot on what is the longer term vision, right? And the vision for Geo Institute is very big. And that's why, like I mentioned to you, the benchmark was, you know, a university like Stanford. So we looked at Stanford University libraries. In fact, some of our senior leaders at the institute went to Stanford, visited with Stanford, and then Tom Kramer, Mike Keller, these are leaders in Stanford University libraries. They came over, right? In fact, recently there was a visit as well from Mike Keller. So there's been a lot of interaction with Stanford, and based on that, we were able to define the vision. Okay, define the vision for the JDL technology, because the vision for the library itself is to offer world-class services. Okay, truly world-class services. And the idea is that these services are to be offered to the members of the library, but over time to the wider public in the country, right? And maybe beyond as well. So that is the vision. And to fulfill that vision, we had to do something which was, which would put us in a position to fulfill that vision, right? So that's why these three words that I have highlighted: scalable, flexible, and extensible. Okay, these are the three words that, you know, we decided the technology should be like this. Okay, scalable in the sense, you know, it could be in terms of, you know, the resources, the number of items we have. It could be in terms of number of users we have. It could be in terms of the kinds of features and services we offer. Okay, so it had to be scalable and flexible. Flexible means it should be easy to change, right? If you want to offer world-class services, then you have to have technology that you can control and you can change and you can improve, right? So that flexibility is very important. And extensible means you should be able to extend it. You have a certain capability, you should be able to take it and get more out of it, or create an adjacent capability around the core capability, right? So you should be able to expand on the capabilities you have. Okay, so scalable, flexible, extensible technology platform is what we wanted to build, because without that, we would not be able to fulfill the vision of the library in the medium to longer term. Okay, this is how we had started. And to be honest, it's not like the vision was very clear right from the start. Okay, so the vision is something we have in mind, and then you go about working on the architecture, working on the technology. You even talk to vendors, you look at implementation plans, and then you come back and look at the vision. I mean, is this, you know, is this our vision? Do we need to make a change to it? So it's not a linear progression from vision to principles to implementation. Okay, it's always back and forth. But I think very early on, we were clear that the technology had to be of this nature. Okay, so that's how we started. Okay, now from Stanford, we had a, you know, we had input. Basically, we knew very quickly what pieces of the technology we had to implement, right? And many of these, I think, will be familiar to all of you, right? We all know library management or integrated library system, right? We know institutional repository, We know ERM, right? We know web scale discovery. So it's nothing that new or different, right? But we needed to know what do we want to do, right? And we got these blocks that you see here on this diagram. We got that as input from Stanford, and then we also had things like, there was a process of doing this. There were workshops and things like that. And very quickly, we had an idea of these are all the pieces of technology we wanted to implement. Okay, this was fairly quick and easy to identify. So I think many of the things are familiar here, right? But just a few things I will point out. One is SSO, single sign-on, right? So in general, in the library world, we think of remote access. Remote access is a more common term, and people understand what remote access is, right? But we wanted to do single sign-on as well. Okay, single sign-on is a little bit different. Single sign-on can be used for remote access, but it's a little bit different in the sense that you sign in once. Okay, normally when we subscribe to resources, we enable access through IP address, right? But in single sign-on, you have to sign in. A user has to log in, and the user can be in the campus or outside, right? But once you sign in once, you have access to all the resources, which could be publisher resources, which could be our internal systems. This is something we wanted to implement. Okay, because with single sign-on, what happens is you can offer more interesting services. For example, you can offer personalized content. You can do recommendations. Okay, so SSO is something I think which is a little bit new, I would say, and we decided quickly that SSO is the way we want to go. And along with single sign-on, we would get remote access as well, which is absolutely required. Especially, COVID was happening when we were doing the implementation. We knew very well that remote access would be very important. Okay. The other things are things like content curation. Okay, so the library itself would curate content, right? This would be maybe third-party content, but we would want to curate it, collect it, and then offer it as a service to our members. So that's another piece we wanted to do. And there's a lot of discovery type of boxes here, right? There's web scale discovery, custom discovery, bento box search. All these are different ways of finding, searching for discovering content, right? And the idea here is that, some people may prefer a certain way of searching, some people may prefer a certain other way of searching, and we wanted to give more options to our members so that, people had choice, and they could try out different ways of finding information, whatever worked for them. Okay, and you will also notice that there is a box here for exhibits. These are digital exhibits, and this is a sort of a system or technology we wanted to implement for our special collections. Okay, so Geo Institute, in line with global benchmarks, is building special collections, is developing special collections, right? And some of these collections are very multimedia type of content is there, and we wanted to have a system which would allow us to exhibit these special collections. Okay, right? So these are some boxes I've explained, but I think all the other boxes are probably familiar to you. And we had to implement this. Okay, we knew we had to implement all of this fairly quickly. So what we had to decide was what kind of approach to take. Okay, so there is a best of breed approach. Best of breed means, okay, you take each box and then you decide in that box what is the best option. Okay, it could be open source, it could be commercial software, it could be something we build ourselves, right? But what is the best way, best approach, or best solution for each category here, each box here? What is the best approach? Okay, that is one approach. The other approach is more integrated, where you will say, no, let's go with one vendor, one system, which can do all of this. Okay, that is an integrated approach. We decided that we will go with best of breed approach. Okay, there are pros and cons of best of breed. So, best of breed is good because, we pick the best option for each category. So overall, we get the best capability. But It may mean multiple vendors, multiple software, different technology, right? Some Java technology, some PHP technology, how to support all that, right? Then we may need integration between these various systems, right? You have 10 systems from 10 different vendors. You need data transfer between them, integration between them. Who's going to do all that integration? Okay, we have to make all these vendors talk to each other. So best of breed has, there are potential problems there. Okay, integrated we could have done. There were some options we looked at. We spoke to vendors. We got some proposals also from vendors. And there are integrated approaches where one system does most of all this, right? And that's very simple because you have just one vendor, one system. But if you look at our vision, right? Our vision was that we want to create world-class services. And we had decided that we need the ability to be flexible. Okay, tomorrow we want to improve the exhibit software, we should be able to do it ourselves, right? Tomorrow we want to replace one of these systems. One of these systems is not good. We can throw it away and plug in a different system. Okay, so because we wanted flexibility, extensibility, and scalability, we felt that best of breed was a better option for us, right? And we didn't want to go with one vendor and then we would be dependent on the vendor. We would ask them to make changes. They would not be able to make changes, right? And also often what happens is when there's one software doing so many things, it tends to not do those things very well, okay? Because there's no specialization, right? And the software becomes very big. It becomes hard to change. These types of issues can also happen, right? So we decided that we will not go for integrated approach. We will go for best of breed approach. Okay, right? So then the next task was what software to use for each box. We had to do some selection of technology, right? It could be open source, it could be commercial, right? There are some principles to do the selection, but we had to select some software for each box that is mentioned here. And then we had to make sure that all these boxes could be supported well and could be integrated as well, right? So data from library management system may have to go to some discovery system so that it can be seen there, right? Single sign-on has to be integrated with all these applications so that user signs in and are able to get into any of these systems. Okay, so we had to think about how to do the integration. Since we are going with best of breed, integration becomes very important. How will we do that? That had to be answered. That question had to be answered. Okay, right? But this was the starting point for us. And on integration, what we decided is, look, we will do integration using these 3 or 4 things, right? One is we will have single sign-on. So even though we have different systems, for the user signs in once and can access all the systems. So it is, even though they're different systems, it is sort of like the same system. Okay, so single sign-on was one thing we had decided on. Second is we knew that data would have to go from one system to another, right? There could be multiple flows from this direction, that direction. And to make sure that that would work, we knew that we had to select systems which offered APIs, application programmer interface. Okay, API means you can make a request to a system and it will return some data to you in a very simple manner, right? So we were interested in systems which offered good APIs. Also, systems which supported standards, right? Like OAI PMH, right? Or there is a new standard called IIIF, which is for image portability. Okay, image and metadata, you want to share that kind of data. So there is a IIIF format or standard, right? So we were interested in technology which had good API support, which followed global standards, right? Because as long as, a system follows standards, you can talk to it. You can make the systems talk to each other, right? So these two we had to do. From a user perspective, right, we had to also take care of look and feel and navigation, because you have 10 different systems. One system looks like that, one system looks very different. Then the user will not feel good. Okay, it will not feel like an integrated set of library services and technology. So we decided that we will make them look the same, right? The same type of button, the same colors, the same style, user experience style, we would make them look the same, right? And then navigation also. So, you have the same header, same footer, even though they are different applications, as long as you're able to navigate between the applications smoothly, it will act like a integrated system. Okay, so we decided all this had become clear to us early enough, thanks to Stanford, because Stanford Libraries also follows the same approach. We were basically following their approach, right? And because they were mentoring us, they were telling us, look, this is how you could do it. We felt confident also that yes, this will work, right? Okay, so we decided on a best of breed approach, and we had a plan. We had some ideas on how the integration between these systems will happen. Okay, now we had to select some software and start implementing, right? And we also didn't have time, okay, because at that time we were going to go live. The programs got delayed because of COVID a bit, but at that time we didn't know, right? We had to implement in a very short time all this technology, and we had decided that, look, we will prefer open source. We will prefer open source software, right? Why? Go back to the vision. The vision was that it will be flexible, extensible, scalable, right? And if you wanted to change something, you can't keep going to a vendor and say, please make this change, please make this change. You can't keep begging them to make changes and getting the features, right? Vendors are responsive, some vendors are not responsive, vendors are good, bad, right? That is a different matter. But we knew that to build world-class software and world-class services over time, we had to have the control ourselves. Okay, it is not about open source software, is not about cost. It can cost. Open source software can be expensive. Okay, because there's hidden cost and all that. You have to spend the time. What's the cost of that? Okay, it's not about cost. It is about control. You have the ability to change the software. That is what it is about. Okay, and you don't have to be dependent on anybody. So we knew that we will prefer open source software, right? But if open source software is not there, or it's not mature, or the support is not there, then we will go for commercial also. There's no ideology here, right? We are not very strict about anything, right? So we will go for best of breed. If that best of breed is open source, good, we will prefer it, right? But if the best of breed is commercial, we will go for that, right? This is what we were thinking. And we also knew that, because we are a new institute, we will go for future-proof technology, right? We didn't want to go for old systems, legacy systems, right? I've been involved with Koha, right? I think it's a great software. It's a great community. I've been involved in the community very deeply also. But Koha, I would say, is old technology. Okay, it's become old. Over time, the software becomes very large. It becomes hard to change. And we wanted to go with new technology, with newer architectures, like microservices, better API support, and things like that, right? So we knew that we will prefer, because we are new, we could go with anything. We could go with any technology. We didn't have any baggage from the past, right? So even though Stanford had made recommendations to us, go with this system, go with that system, in some cases we did not take Stanford's recommendation, okay, because some of those systems were old, and we wanted to use technology which was the latest technology, and latest technology tends to be more flexible. It aligned with our vision also. Okay, right? So we wanted to do future-proof technology, latest technology, and we decided that we will go with vendors. We will not do it ourselves. Okay, even though Geo Institute is part of Geo and Reliance Group, right? There are a lot of technology support and capability within the group, within the business group, right? But we decided that it will still, we'll have to hire, we'll have to find the staff, we'll have to start implementing. We may not have the expertise. Okay, we knew very early that it will be risky to try to do it ourselves, right? You try to do something and then you find that, oh my God, you're not able to do it on time. Even if you do it, you don't do it well. So we didn't want to do that. We decided we will go with vendors. Okay, we will go with providers, which could be some product company, which could be some services company, technology services company, who have a good reputation, who have a track record, and we will go with them, is what we decided very quickly. Okay. Then we also knew we had to implement fast, because we thought, we'll be launching our programs very quickly. We didn't have much time, right? And also some other factors were in our mind. So, if we implement a technology longer term, we should be able to, we should have local talent, within the country, within the city. We should be able to make changes to the software. So we had that also in mind, and there were some other factors also. Okay, many factors were there in mind, but I think some of these were the most important. And the guiding principles were mostly driven by our by the vision, right? Because we wanted to build world-class technology. Okay, all right. So now we had to pick software for those boxes, right? So how did we select that? Let me give you some examples so that you get a sense of how we applied these principles, the guiding principles, and selected the technology. Okay, so for the library management system, right, we considered many options. We considered Koha. We considered commercial products. Stanford had recommended a commercial product to us, which is what they use, right? We considered all that. We spoke to vendors. We spoke to folio people also, people who were involved in folio, who knew what was going on, right? And folio is new, relatively new. You can say it is not very mature. You can say that. It's a legitimate point, right? But we also knew that folio was built by EBSCO. Okay, EBSCO is a well-known library vendor, as you know, and also index data. So I think we'll have speakers from index data. Sebastian Hammer is going to speak, and then Mike McKinnon from EBSCO will speak, right? So we spoke to all these people, and we knew that the people who were building folio had a track record. Okay, they knew what they were doing. They had long years of experience and expertise in library domain and technology. Okay, we knew that the background of the software was good. The architecture of folio is modern. Okay, it has a microservices architecture, which, when Sebastian Hammer gives his talk, you can understand, right, why microservices makes a lot of sense. It is a better way of building software. It gives us that flexibility. Okay, instead of building one big software, you build small pieces of software. And then if you don't like something, you can throw it out and replace it. Okay, so that's why microservices type of applications are more flexible, more extensible, which is what we wanted, which was aligned with our vision. Okay, so we picked folio. It was also open source, of course, right? It was open source. So when we wanted to build something around folio or within folio, we could do that. It was microservices, future-proof technology, very flexible, very extensible. It was totally built with APIs. Okay, folio has a very strong API, and it has been built with APIs in mind right from the start. Everything is an API. Any data you want from folio, you can call an API and get it. Right? What does that mean? What it means is you can build around folio. You want to build a reporting tool, you can use the folio API and build a reporting tool of your own. Right? That is what extensibility is. You have folio, you're using it. Folio may have some capability or may not have some capability, but at least it has APIs, so I can build my own front end on top of the API and start creating my own capabilities. Okay, right? So these were some of the main reasons we picked folio. It was not mature, but we knew that, we are also new, right? Geo Institute is new. We are starting small. We don't need a very, we don't have millions of records, migration. We don't have too much of complexity because we are starting, right? For our stage of growth, our stage in the journey of the institute and the library, folio would suffice. Okay, so even though it was new, we decided that we will bite the bullet. We will take some risk here, right? And we will adopt folio. especially because there were some other top universities in the US especially and in Europe who had already adopted Folio, especially the ERM of Folio people were adopting, and even Stanford wants to move to Folio, and there were other libraries which were adopting more and more capabilities of Folio as well. Okay, and then finally we wanted to go with vendors, right? And we found a vendor. The vendor said they had a clear offering around Folio. Okay, they said, yes, we will do it. Yes, we can do it quickly because they had done the same thing for others. And we were confident that it would get implemented successfully. Okay, right? So that's why we decided to go with the Folio system for library management. Okay, then other pieces, right? Remember those boxes. So every box we had to decide. So then we decided to, for web scale discovery, we decided to go with EDS. Okay, EDS is I think all of us know, right? One of the leading products in the category, and we got feedback that it had somewhat better, if not, it was not miles, if not miles ahead, it was better in terms of coverage of articles, and pricing was favorable, and the vendor EBSCO would also support Folio. Okay, they would also support Folio. Now, why is this important? Because, see, we did not want, it was very clear to us that we did not want to deal with 10 vendors. Okay, we wanted to have only 1 or 2 vendors because it's too complex to deal with too many vendors. And you have to, contract with them, you have to work on the contract, you have to negotiate with them, and you have to deal with them, you have to communicate with them. Okay, so you cannot be in a situation where you have too many vendors. And because EBSCO was doing Folio, and they would do EDS as well, so it became like a decision that we could take, right? Okay, then once you have EDS, then you can go with the link resolver of EBSCO, because that comes integrated with EDS. And Stanford had given us a recommendation, but that product that Stanford recommended was end of life. It was not being offered in India anyways, right? So what Stanford was telling us to do was not possible. Okay, so we went with EBSCO Full Text Finder, which is their link resolver. Okay, for single sign-on and remote access, we went with Open Athens. Open Athens is a UK company. It's a UK not-for-profit organization. And a lot of libraries, as we all know, I think, right? A lot of libraries in the world use Open Athens. So it had a huge track record, successful technology. And EBSCO was the distributor and service provider for Open Athens in India. Okay, so we were confident we would get local support from India for all these pieces, Folio, EBSCO Discovery, and Open Athens, right? So these were some of the reasons we went with Open Athens. And of course, like I mentioned to you, single sign-on is a superior technology to proxy solutions, right? So we wanted to do single sign-on, and Open Athens was a clear sort of leading product in that space. Here also, Stanford had given us a recommendation, which we did not use. Okay, they had a proxy solution in mind, but even that solution from OCLC was end of life, was not being offered in India, right? So we anyways could not do what Stanford was recommending in this case. Okay, all right. Then for the institutional repository, we looked at DSpace, right? ePrints, DSpace, and there are some commercial options also. But we went with this technology called Hyrax, and there is a productized version of it called Haiku. Okay, and this we did because, again, open source, and it had better support for images and image-related standards like IIIF. Okay, because we knew we were building special collections which had a lot of images. So we had to prefer a software which was strong on the images side. And DSpace is good. Okay, we did think about using DSpace, but we decided that Hyrax and Haiku had better support for images. Also, Stanford University, who we are working closely with. They are involved in this technology. They have a lot of people who work on this kind of technology, and we thought maybe they could support us if we need it, right? We could work with them, we could collaborate with them, they would support us as well. So we felt a little comfortable that this is the technology we should use for the institutional repository, right? There were also vendors available, a couple of vendors, not too many, but there were vendors available in the US, but not in India. Okay, this is not known in India, this technology. And we had some concerns about US-based vendors because of time zone. Okay, I mean, they are in the opposite time zone, right? When it is day here, it is night there. So we had some concerns, but speaking to them, we felt, okay, if there are issues, it'll be very rare. In general, nowadays with cloud technology and the way things are done in an automated fashion, issues are rare. And if there is an issue, we'll have to deal with it. Okay, so there were vendors available as well, and we felt that here also, okay, because it is open source and we could make changes, we could customize the software, and we had good support from Stanford. We had some vendors available. Anyway, it had images, good support for images. We went with this technology. Okay, then for other discovery platforms, okay, these are, we wanted to our own discovery platform, our own search engine technology, right? And exhibits. We also wanted to exhibit images and multimedia content. So here we went with Blacklight and Spotlight. I think many of you will know this to some extent at least, right? Blacklight and Spotlight. The equivalent of this is Viewfind. Okay, if not Blacklight, you'll know Viewfind. And we went with Blacklight and Spotlight because it was mature. Again, Stanford was a leading user, and they had, they were leading the effort as well. So we felt comfortable with it. Also, one important thing was the same technology. Blacklight and Spotlight use the same technology as HYRAX, the institutional repository software, right? This was important because remember, I mentioned to you that when you go with best of breed approach, you don't want to end up in a situation where 10 systems, 10 different technology, right? Because you can't have the skill to manage all the different technologies. You cannot be an expert in so many technologies. So we wanted to have minimal, just a few technologies, right? So this uses something called Ruby on Rails, which is a web development framework. Okay, it has a different, it's a programming language. Ruby is a programming language, and Ruby on Rails is a framework for web development, right? So Blacklight and Spotlight and HYRAX or Haiku use the same technology. So we felt that, one vendor or if we build our own team, one team would be sufficient to support all these technologies. Okay, so we could have gone with Viewfind, but we did not because of this reason. We wanted the same technology as some of our other products. Okay, all right. Then LibGuides. This is the content curation product. We found that this was a recommendation from Stanford. This is a US company, and there was no clear competitor available, no open source option available in this space. And LibGuides is a simple SaaS offering. Okay, SaaS is very good because you just, once your software is active, there's no installation, no servers to manage. You just log in, it's on the cloud, and you can access the software, right? So it's very quick. There's no implementation risk, and it's quick, right? And so there was a simple SaaS offering available. There weren't too many competing options, and it was a Stanford recommendation. We just went with it. Okay, so this is a different vendor, but we purchased this particular software. Okay, now for the website. A library website is important. Okay, we want to have a very good library website, and we went with Drupal. Drupal is an open source software. Okay, there are others like WordPress is there, Drupal is there, and there are others also. Okay, and now unfortunately for this, we could not find a vendor. There are many vendors for Drupal, but we didn't have good conversations with them. Okay, we didn't feel like they were reliable, and it didn't work out. We spoke to many vendors, but we could not find someone good, right? And we asked our other vendors who were helping us with Folio and Haiku and all that, whether they would be able to do Drupal. They said, no, we don't know this technology. Okay, so we had a problem with the website. But fortunately, within Jio and Reliance Group, there is Drupal expertise. Okay, there are many people, many developers, many teams which work on Drupal, because within Reliance, there are many websites that have to be created and managed, right? So fortunately, we found in-house expertise for this particular application, right? So we decided to go with Drupal for the library website, right? Okay, so I've explained to you how we picked these technologies, how we picked Folio, how we picked EDS, and then other applications like Hyrax, Haiku, and Spotlight, Backlight, and so on, right? We picked them based on the principles, guiding principles I had explained to you earlier. Okay, things like open source software, fewer vendors, okay, reliable vendors, few vendors, commercial software where required. Okay, there's no ideology, no rigidity. Okay, we wanted to be flexible in our approach. We would go whatever worked best for us, we would use that. But fortunately, as you can see here, right, given the importance the open source software has in the library world, everywhere, right, in the US, in Europe, especially, we were able to find good open source options for most of the boxes, right? So you can see most are open source. And what is not open source? You have Open Athens, you have EDS, you have EBSCO, Link Resolver, and you have libguides. Okay, only 2-3 boxes or 4 boxes in total are not open source. All others are open source software. Okay, so this is what we decided we will implement. Now, to implement, right, we have to do the, we wanted to use vendors. We didn't want to use too many vendors, okay, because it would be too complex. And the way the analysis went, it was not very clear all the time, but eventually it clicked into place. Okay, it kind of fit very well that, okay, we'll have one vendor for Folio, Open Athens, EDS, full text, link resolver. Okay, 4 boxes would be done by one vendor. And then 4 other boxes, Blacklight, Spotlight, Quick Search, Hyrax. Quick Search is that bento box tool, by the way. Okay, bento box, you search for something, it shows you results in different boxes. That also is an interesting way of discovery. So 4 boxes would be by one vendor, 4 other boxes would be by another vendor. Okay, so very quickly we knew that we had 2 vendors who would take care of most of the things, right? Then libguides was a small piece, SaaS software, easy, no problem. And Drupal was in-house. Okay, 2 things we decided we will not do because we couldn't find a good option for those 2 things, right? So even though it was something that was part of our plan, we wanted to do it, but we couldn't find a good enough solution right away. So we decided to defer that. Okay, one is patron empowerment. Patron empowerment means, you have, you can see your fines, you can see your circulation history, you can renew books. So that kind of thing we couldn't find because Folio doesn't have a solution at the moment, right? And for interlibrary loan also, Stanford had made a recommendation, but again, that product was not available in the Indian market. Okay, because a lot of technology that Stanford uses is from the past, and those products have changed or they are no longer available. So we couldn't find a good ILL solution also, and we decided that anyway for to create ILL we need to have partnerships with other institutes and so on. Until that happens, we can defer the decision. So these 2 boxes in gray we decided not to do, and the other boxes we had 2 vendors only. Okay, most of our systems were implemented by 2 vendors, which made us happy. We didn't have to deal with half a dozen vendors, right? Okay, after this, it was a matter of signing the contract. Fortunately, within the Jio and Reliance group, we have a lot of contracting experience and expertise. Okay, there are procurement people, legal people, so we were very fortunate there. They could create strong contracts. And the vendors were in the US, right? In the US, the vendors prefer to have strong, clear contracts. Okay, and we had expertise to do that. We created the contract. It took a long time to develop and negotiate the contract, and then we didn't have to go through tender process and all that. Okay, that is one advantage here, that we just decided, okay, this is the vendor, this is the solution, sign a contract, negotiate with them, sure, but we didn't have to go through tenders and all that, and then we placed the order, and we had a clear idea of when it will be done, and they did it, right? The vendors were good. We were happy with the process in general. Okay, in general, there are always problems, but eventually it got done. So this is what it looks like now. Okay, and you can go and look at the website and all these applications. I will share the link also for these applications, right? So this is our website. Okay, this is our library website. You can see it is on, this is built on Drupal, which is open source. And this was done in-house, okay, within the Geo group. And the URL is, their domain is library.geoinstitute.edu.in. Okay, please go and take a look. Okay, this is our quick search, bento box search application. Okay, you can see what you should notice, by the way. Remember, we said, how will we integrate these applications? And one of the things was, we will make them look and feel the same, right? So notice that, these applications, now here's the other application, which is our Blacklight, SearchWorks, we are calling it, right? Notice that they look and feel the same, right? You can see between these two, they look and feel the same, hopefully, okay? Also notice that, the navigation on the top is the same. That about us, access, collections that you see on the top, right? The navigation bar on the top, you can see between these two, it's the same. Okay, colors are the same. The style, the experience, you feel that they are the same application, even though they are not, right? Even though they are not, by making them look and feel the same, we are integrating. From a user perspective, these are hopefully looking like a single integrated offering. Okay, right? So these are two discovery systems we implemented, and then this is our digital repository. Okay, institutional repository. This is our exhibit software. I wanted to show you this screen because it has a lot of Stanford content. We also have our own content, but this Stanford content is possible because of the IIIF format, the standard, right? So this content is not hosted on our platform, but we were able to use IIIF format to create exhibits out of Stanford content, okay? And notice that this also looks exactly the same as the previous applications. Okay, this is our LibGuides application. Notice the domain at the bottom. Okay, and this is Folio, by the way. Okay, I'm just showing you a screenshot of Folio. Folio is used by library staff, not by the end users, right? So it looks a bit different, but that's okay. This is EDS. We have EDS, and in fact, what we want to do is we want our Blacklight should be the front end. Okay, and within Blacklight, we pull data from EDS to display on Blacklight. So we have that kind of integration, but EDS is also available, and in case we want to, have our users look at it, we can use that. Okay, this is the publication finder in EDS, which also is useful. It gives us the A to Z listing, and this is the single sign-on system. Okay, you sign in once with one ID and password, and you have access to all the systems. Okay, you don't even have to sign in again and again. You have to sign in only once. Okay, single sign-on is not the same as same sign-on. Okay, this is single sign-on, one login, that's it. Okay, so I've shown you some of these applications, right? And those domains you can see and you can visit them. Okay, now very quickly, I know we are short of time. So very quickly, it was, there are always challenges with technology implementation, right? And so for example, Folio, we knew was not very mature, and we took some risk adopting it. And now, we were trying to do things like, we wanted to do RFID implementation with NSIP protocol, but Folio doesn't have good support for that at the moment, right? Serials controls we want to do, but doesn't have good control. Reporting is a bit weak. And the main thing is it doesn't have a patron empowerment, opaque type of thing. It doesn't yet have. Okay, so these are some challenges we are facing. But, it's open source. If you want to build something, if you want to build an opaque, we can do it, right? We have to find resources from within or in collaboration with other libraries, and we can build it. At least we can build it if we want to. Okay. And with Blacklight, Spotlight, and others, we found that there were InfoSec problems because, in Geo, given we are part of the Geo group and the Reliance group, information security is very important. And we had an assessment done and we found that there were some weaknesses in that. Okay, so these were some challenges and surprises that we came across. But again, all this is open source software, right? So we can fix them. We can change the software, fix these issues, and we will contribute those changes to the wider community so that all the users of these software will benefit from the changes we are making, right? Just like we benefit from the changes they make, others will benefit from the changes we make. Okay, right? So these are some challenges. It's not, implementation is not perfect, it's not complete, but more or less it is done. Okay, so let me stop here. This is just a summary, okay? A summary of what I have spoken about. And I think these were some good lessons for us, and hopefully you can draw some lessons from this case study as well. Okay, so I will stop here.